The rain hammered against the taxi window as Moris Chen pressed his forehead to the cool glass, watching Seattle blur into streaks of gray and neon. His phone buzzed for the 14th time in the past hour. He didn't need to look to know it was Ethan. "You sure about the airport, buddy?" the driver asked, glancing in the rearview mirror. Marcus nodded, not trusting his voice. He was sure, he had to be sure. 3 years of his life were packed into 2 suitcases in the trunk, and the job offer from the London firm was too good to pass up. That's what he'd been telling himself for the past 6 weeks, ever since he'd accepted the position without telling Ethan first. The phone buzzed again. This time Marcus looked. "Ethan, asterisk, please don't get on that plane." "Ethan, asterisk, we need to talk about this." "Ethan, asterisk, Marcus, I love you." "Ethan, asterisk, just come home." That last message made something crack inside Marcus's chest. Home. Their apartment near Pike Place Market, with its creaky floors and the view of Elliott Bay that Ethan loved so much. The kitchen where they'd learned to cook together, burning more meals than they'd successfully made in that first year. The bedroom where morning light came in golden and warm, where Ethan would pull him close and mumble that 5 more minutes wouldn't hurt. But it wasn't home anymore. It couldn't be. Not when Marcus had spent the last year feeling like he was suffocating, like the walls were closing in, like he was 28 years old and his entire life had already been decided for him. Actually, Marcus heard himself say, "Can you pull over?" The driver's eyes met his in the mirror. "You okay, man?" No, he wasn't okay. He hadn't been okay for months. "Just pull over, please." The taxi slowed to a stop along a quiet street in Capitol Hill. Marcus handed the driver a wad of bills and grabbed his suitcases, standing on the wet sidewalk as the taxi drove away. He wasn't near the apartment. He wasn't near anything, really, except a dive bar called the Comet that he and Ethan used to frequent when they first started dating. His phone buzzed. "Ethan, asterisk, I'm sorry. For whatever I did, we can fix this." Marcus's fingers trembled as he typed back. "Marcus, asterisk, you didn't do anything wrong, that's the problem." He hit send before he could reconsider, then turned off his phone. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, and the Seattle night smelled like wet asphalt and coffee from a nearby shop. Marcus stood there for a long moment, suitcases at his feet, and tried to remember exactly when he decided to blow up his entire life. It wasn't one moment, it was 1,000 tiny moments. It was Ethan talking about buying a house, about settling down, about forever, and Marcus feeling panic rise in his throat instead of joy. It was watching their friends couple off and domesticate, trading in spontaneity for stability and wondering when he'd agreed to the same fate. It was looking at Ethan, beautiful, steady, loving Ethan, and feeling like he was drowning in someone else's dream. Marcus picked up his suitcases and started walking. Part 2, 3 years earlier. "You're starring," Ethan said without looking up from his book. Marcus didn't deny it. They were at Volunteer Park on a rare sunny Seattle afternoon, and Ethan was sprawled on a blanket in a way that should have been illegal. His dark hair fell across his forehead, and his reading glasses, the ones he claimed he didn't need but absolutely did, perched on his nose. "You're in my light," Marcus said, which was a lie. Ethan was his light. Ethan grinned and finally looked up. "So move." "You move." "I was here first. I brought the blanket. I brought the sandwiches." They were ridiculous and Marcus loved it. They'd been dating for 3 months and every day felt like unwrapping a present. Ethan Reed was a middle school English teacher with a passion for poetry that Marcus found both pretentious and endearing. He could quote Neruda and Whitman at the drop of a hat, but he also laughed at Marcus's terrible jokes and didn't judge him for eating cereal for dinner. "Read to me," Marcus said, settling onto the blanket and resting his head in Ethan's lap. "You hate poetry." "I hate bad poetry. You said this was good poetry." Ethan's fingers automatically moved to Marcus's hair, a gesture that had already become familiar and necessary. "It's Auden." "Is that good?" "Moris Chen, I'm going to educate you if it kills me." "Please don't, I'm an architect, we prefer blueprints to verses." But Ethan read anyway, his voice soft and steady, and Marcus closed his eyes and let the words wash over him. He didn't understand half of it, but he understood the way Ethan's fingers moved through his hair. He understood the warmth of the sun on his face and the way his chest felt full and light at the same time. "I could fall in love with you," Marcus said when Ethan finished reading. Ethan's hand stilled in his hair. "Could." Marcus opened his eyes and looked up at him. Ethan's face was backlit by the sun, making him look like something out of a Renaissance painting. "Will am already have." Those are three different tenses. "I told you I'm not good with words." "You're doing fine," Ethan said softly. Then he leaned down and kissed him, and Marcus thought that maybe this was what poetry was supposed to feel like. They moved in together 2 months later. Part 3: The London Life. London was gray and wet and nothing like home. Marcus had been in the city for 8 months, and he still couldn't shake the feeling that he'd made a catastrophic mistake. The job was everything he'd hoped for: prestigious firm, innovative projects, the kind of work that could define a career. He shared a flat in Shoreditch with 2 other transplants, a South African graphic designer named Lee and a Canadian journalist named Priya, and they'd formed a strange little family of people running from something. "You've got that look again," Priya said one evening as they shared takeaway curry in their cramped kitchen. "What look?" "The I've made terrible life choices look. It's very distinctive." Marcus stabbed at his chicken tikka masala. "I don't have a look." "You absolutely have a look," Lee confirmed. "You've had it since you moved in. Does it have anything to do with the guy whose photo you stare at when you think we're not watching?" Marcus's cheeks heated. "I don't." "Mate, your phone is literally in your hand right now, and you're looking at a photo of a very attractive bloke in front of the Space Needle." Marcus looked down. Sure enough, there was Ethan on his screen, grinning at the camera during their trip to the top of the Space Needle for Marcus's 27th birthday. It was one of Marcus's favorite photos. Ethan looked so happy, so carefree, like the world was full of possibility. Marcus hadn't spoken to Ethan since that night in the taxi. He'd sent one text from the airport: "I'm sorry, I need to do this." Ethan had responded, "Then I hope you find what you're looking for." There had been nothing since. No calls, no texts, no emails. Marcus had blocked Ethan on social media because seeing updates felt like pressing on a bruise. He told himself it was better this way: clean break, fresh start. But at night, in his narrow bed in a city that still felt foreign, Marcus would pull up that photo and wonder what Ethan was doing. If he was okay, if he hated Marcus, if he'd moved on. "His name is Ethan," Marcus said quietly. "Was Ethan. I mean, his name is still Ethan, obviously, but he's not. We're not." "You left him," Priya said. "It wasn't a question." "Yeah." "Did he do something awful?" "No, he was perfect, that was the problem." Lee and Priya exchanged a look that Marcus couldn't quite read. "Explain that logic to me," Lee said. Marcus set down his fork. "We were together for 3 years. He wanted to buy a house, talk about marriage, the whole thing, and I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was 28 years old and my entire life was already mapped out and I hadn't even lived yet." "So you ran," Priya said. "So I ran," Marcus agreed. "And now?" "Now I have an amazing job and a great flat with lovely roommates," Marcus said, forcing brightness into his voice. "I'm living in one of the best cities in the world. I go to museums and pubs and I've seen Big Ben at least a dozen times." "And you're miserable," Lee said gently. Marcus's throat tightened. "I'm not, I just need more time to adjust, to figure out what I want." "And what do you want?" Marcus looked down at the photo on his phone. Ethan's smile, Ethan's eyes, Ethan. "I don't know," he lied. Part 4: The Email. The email came on a Tuesday. Marcus was at his desk working on renderings for a residential project in Kensington when his phone buzzed with a notification. The sender was an address he didn't recognize, but the subject line made his heart stop: "You should know." He hesitated, then opened it. Marcus **. This is Daniel Reed, Ethan's brother. I got your email from your firm's website. I wasn't sure if I should contact you, but I thought you'd want to know. Ethan's in the hospital. He was in a car accident 3 days ago. Some drunk driver ran a red light. He's going to be okay, broken leg, some bruised ribs, concussion, but it was bad for a while. I don't know what happened between you two, and it's none of my business. But he keeps asking for you. Even when he was barely conscious, your name was the first thing out of his mouth. I thought you should know. Daniel. Marcus read the email 3 times, then stood up so fast his chair rolled backward and hit the desk behind him. His hands were shaking. His whole body was shaking. Ethan was hurt. Ethan had been asking for him. I need to go, Marcus said to no one in particular. His project manager looked up in surprise. Jen, you okay? I need to go, Marcus repeated, already grabbing his coat. I need to go home. He booked a flight from his phone while standing on the sidewalk outside his office building. The next direct flight to Seattle wasn't until tomorrow morning, which felt like a lifetime away. Marcus paced the pavement, his mind racing with terrible images: Ethan in a hospital bed, Ethan hurt, Ethan alone. He keeps asking for you. Marcus had left. He'd walked away from the best thing in his life because he'd been scared and stupid and convinced that there was something better waiting for him. And Ethan had been hurt and Marcus hadn't been there. His phone rang. It was Priya. Lee told me something happened, she said without preamble. Are you okay? I need to go back to Seattle. The guy, Ethan. He's hurt. He's in the hospital. I need to see him. Okay, Priya said immediately. Okay, come back to the flat, pack, I'll help you. Marcus made it home in a daze. Lee and Priya were both there, pulling his suitcase out of storage, helping him throw clothes into it without any real organization. Priya called his office and explained there was a family emergency. Lee made him tea that he didn't drink. What if he doesn't want to see me? Marcus said as he sat on his bed watching them pack for him. I left him. I didn't call or text or anything for 8 months. What if he hates me? Then at least you'll know, Priya said. But Marcus, I don't think he hates you. How do you know? Because you don't hate him, and everything you've told us about Ethan makes him sound like someone who doesn't hate people. Marcus's flight was at 6 a.m. He didn't sleep. He sat in the living room with his packed suitcase at his feet and stared at the photo of Ethan on his phone. At some point, he started scrolling through other photos, hundreds of them, years of memories. Ethan making pancakes, flour in his hair. Ethan at the beach, windswept and laughing. Ethan asleep on the couch with a book on his chest. Ethan, Ethan, Ethan. What have I done? Marcus thought. What the hell have I done? Part 5. The hospital. Marcus went straight from the airport to Harborview Medical Center. He hadn't slept on the plane, hadn't eaten, hadn't done anything but sit rigid in his seat and count down the minutes. Now he stood in the hospital lobby, smelling that distinctive mix of antiseptic and industrial cleaner, and felt paralyzed. What if Ethan didn't want to see him? What if seeing Marcus made things worse? What if? Marcus! He turned. Daniel Reed stood a few feet away, looking exhausted and surprised in equal measure. Ethan's older brother had always been protective of Ethan, and Marcus had no doubt that Daniel knew exactly how badly Marcus had hurt him. Daniel, Marcus said, I got your email. How is he? Daniel studied him for a long moment. He's okay. Leg surgery went well. He's on the 4th floor, room 412. He paused. Does he know you're coming? No, I didn't want to. I just needed to get here. He's sleeping right now. Pain meds knocked him out. Can I see him just for a minute? Daniel's jaw worked, then he sighed. Yeah, come on. They rode the elevator in silence. Marcus's hands were clenched into fists at his sides, and he couldn't stop the anxious thoughts spiraling through his mind. The elevator dinged. 4th floor. Daniel led him down a hallway that seemed to stretch forever. Room 412, Daniel said, stopping outside a door. Marcus, whatever you're going to say to him, make sure you mean it. He's been through enough. I know. I'm serious. He spent 3 months after you left barely functional. He'd go to work, come home, and that was it. Wouldn't go out, wouldn't date, wouldn't talk about you. It was like you died. Guilt crashed over Marcus in a wave. I'm sorry. Don't apologize to me, apologize to him. Daniel opened the door. I'll give you two some privacy. I'll be in the waiting room. Marcus stepped inside. The room was dim, curtains drawn against the afternoon sun, machines beeped softly, and there in the hospital bed was Ethan. He looked smaller than Marcus remembered, which was ridiculous because people didn't shrink. But something about seeing him in a hospital gown, his leg in a cast and elevated, bruises on his face and arms, it made Marcus want to gather him up and protect him from everything. Ethan's dark hair was messy, falling across his forehead. His reading glasses sat on the side table next to a pitcher of water and a stack of books that someone, probably Daniel, had brought from home. Even unconscious, even hurt, he was beautiful. Marcus pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. His hands itched to touch Ethan to make sure he was real and breathing and okay. Instead, he pressed them against his thighs and just looked. I'm sorry, Marcus whispered. Ethan, I'm so sorry for all of it, for leaving, for not calling, for being too stupid and scared to realize what I had. I'm sorry. Ethan didn't move. Marcus hadn't expected him to. I thought I needed to leave to find myself or whatever cliché bullshit that was. I thought I was suffocating, but London was just empty. Every museum, every pub, every street, I kept thinking about how you'd love this building or hate that restaurant or want to stop and look at that bookshop. You were everywhere and nowhere and I was just lost. Marcus's voice cracked. And then Daniel's email, and all I could think was that you were hurt and I wasn't here, and what if something had happened and the last thing I ever said to you was, I need to do this? What kind of last words are those? What kind of coward? Marcus. Marcus's head snapped up. Ethan's eyes were open, hazy with pain medication, but definitely open. He was staring at Marcus like he wasn't sure if he was real. Hey, Marcus managed. I'm here, I'm right here. You're in London, Ethan said, his words slightly slurred. I was in London, I'm here now. Why? Daniel emailed me, told me about the accident. Ethan's eyes drifted closed again, and for a moment Marcus thought he'd fallen back asleep. Then, you came back. Of course I came back. You left. The words were simple, matter-of-fact, but they cut through Marcus like a knife. I know, I'm sorry, Ethan, I'm so sorry. Ethan hummed, already fatting, tired. Sleep, Marcus said softly. I'll be here when you wake up. Promise. Marcus felt tears prick at his eyes. I promise. Ethan's breathing evened out and he was asleep again. Marcus sat back in his chair and let out a shaky breath. He'd seen Ethan, he'd talked to him, sort of, and Ethan hadn't told him to leave. It was something. Part 6, The Waiting. Marcus stayed. He slept in the uncomfortable chair beside Ethan's bed, ate terrible cafeteria food, and fended off concerned texts from Priya and Lee. Daniel brought him a change of clothes from Ethan's apartment, which hurt more than Marcus wanted to admit, seeing his old home filtered through Daniel's arms, and gave him a look that said they'd be having a conversation later. Ethan drifted in and out of consciousness for the first day. When he was awake, he was groggy and confused, and Marcus wasn't sure if he actually remembered that Marcus was there or if it was the medication playing tricks. But every time Ethan's eyes fluttered open and landed on Marcus, something in his expression softened. On the second day, Ethan was more alert. You're still here, he said when he woke around noon. Marcus looked up from the book he'd been pretending to read. I said I would be. I thought I dreamed you. Not a dream. Ethan stared at him for a long moment. His face was still bruised, yellowing now around the edges, and there was a cut above his left eyebrow that had been stitched closed. but his eyes were clear and sharp and so painfully familiar that Marcus had to look away. "How long are you staying?" Ethan asked. "I don't know." "Don't you have work?" "I took a leave." "You took a leave," Ethan repeated slowly, "from your dream job in London to sit in a hospital room with your ex-boyfriend?" "Yes." "Why?" Marcus set down his book. "Because you were hurt. People get hurt all the time, you don't usually fly across an ocean for them. I flew across an ocean for you." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You left, you walked away without really explaining why, and then you got on a plane to London and you didn't call or text or," his voice cracked, "you just disappeared." "I know. So why are you here now?" It was a fair question. Marcus owed him a real answer. "Because when Daniel told me you'd been hurt, all I could think was that I'd wasted 8 months. 8 months I could have spent with you, and instead I was miserable in a city that wasn't home, missing you every second of every day. And I thought," Marcus had to stop, had to swallow past the lump in his throat. "I thought that if something happened to you and I never got to tell you that I'm sorry, that I made a mistake, that leaving you was the stupidest thing I've ever done, I couldn't live with that." Ethan was quiet for a long time. Then, "You hurt me really badly. I know I'm sorry. I don't know if sorry is enough." "I know that too." Ethan looked down at his hands, picking at the hospital blanket. "I spent 3 months thinking I'd done something wrong, that I'd pushed too hard about the house, about the future, that I'd smothered you or been too clingy or—" "No," Marcus said firmly. "Ethan, no, you didn't do anything wrong. This was all me. My fear, my stupidity, my inability to appreciate what I had." "Then why did you leave?" It was the question Marcus had been dreading, because the answer made him sound like an asshole and there was no way around that. "Because I was scared," Marcus admitted. "You talked about forever and all I could think about was that I was 28 and I'd never lived anywhere but Seattle. I'd never taken risks or done anything spontaneous or figured out who I was outside of being half of Marcus and Ethan. And I panicked." "So you left." "So I left." "Did you figure it out who you are?" Marcus met Ethan's eyes. "Yeah, I'm the idiot who left the best thing in his life because he thought there was something better out there. Turns out there isn't." Ethan's expression was unreadable. "I can't just forgive you, Marcus. I can't just pretend the last 8 months didn't happen." "I'm not asking you to." "Then what are you asking?" "Nothing, I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry and that leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life." A nurse came in then to check Ethan's vitals and the moment shattered. Marcus stepped into the hallway to give them privacy, leaning against the wall and closing his eyes. He'd said what he needed to say. The rest was up to Ethan. Part 7 Conversations. Over the next few days, they fell into a careful routine. Marcus was there when Ethan woke up and when he fell asleep. He helped when nurses came to change dressings or adjust the bed. He read aloud when Ethan got bored of television, sticking to safe choices like news articles and not the poetry Ethan used to love. They talked, but only about surface things: Ethan's students, Marcus's projects in London, the weather. They didn't talk about them, not yet. Daniel visited every day along with a rotating cast of Ethan's friends and colleagues. Marcus recognized some of them: Sarah from Ethan's school, Tom and Javier from their weekly game night crew. They were polite to Marcus but cool, their loyalty to Ethan obvious and deserved. Marcus didn't blame them. On the fourth day, Ethan's doctor cleared him to be discharged. "You'll need help at home for a few weeks," Dr. Patel said, making notes on her tablet. "Someone to help with stairs, meals, getting around. The cast stays on for 6 weeks, then we'll reevaluate." "I can stay with him," Daniel offered immediately. "You have a wife and 2 kids, Ethan protested. "I'll be fine." "You live in a 3rd-floor walk-up. You'll absolutely not be fine." "I can stay," Marcus heard himself say. Everyone turned to look at him. Daniel's expression was skeptical, Ethan's was unreadable. Marcus, Ethan started. You need help, I'm here, let me do this. You barely spoke to me for 8 months. I know and I can't undo that, but I can help you now, please. Ethan studied him for a long moment, then to everyone's surprise, okay. Okay, Daniel repeated. Okay, Ethan confirmed, not taking his eyes off Marcus. He can stay. They got Ethan home in Daniel's car, Marcus riding in back with Ethan while Daniel navigated Seattle traffic. The apartment building looked exactly the same, red brick, Art Deco details, the small garden in front that the building manager actually cared about. Marcus had spent 3 years walking through that front door, and now it felt like entering a museum of his own past. Getting Ethan up 3 flights of stairs with crutches and a cast was an ordeal. By the time they made it inside, Ethan was pale and sweating, and Marcus's heart was racing from anxiety more than exertion. The apartment had changed. The furniture was mostly the same. Ethan had kept the couch they'd picked out together, the coffee table Marcus had found at a flea market, but there were new touches, different art on the walls, a bookshelf Marcus didn't recognize, small signs that life had continued without him. Guest room's the same, Ethan said as Daniel helped him to the couch. You can sleep there. The guest room, not their room, not the bedroom they'd shared where morning light came in golden and warm. Marcus nodded like it didn't hurt. Daniel left after making sure Ethan was settled, giving Marcus a meaningful look on his way out. Take care of him. I will. I mean it, Marcus, he's been through enough. I know I will, I promise. When Daniel was gone, Marcus stood awkwardly in the living room while Ethan arranged pillows around his elevated leg. The silence was heavy. Do you want something to eat? Marcus asked. I could make dinner. You hate cooking. I learned a few things in London. I won't poison you, I promise. Ethan's lips twitched, not quite a smile but close. Okay, there's chicken in the fridge and pasta. Marcus escaped to the kitchen, grateful for something to do with his hands. The kitchen was both familiar and foreign, same layout, same appliances, but new dish towels and a different coffee maker. Marcus opened cabinets and found things slightly rearranged, spices he didn't recognize, evidence of a life that had moved on without him. He made chicken pasta with vegetables, one of the few dishes he'd actually mastered. When he brought it to the living room, Ethan was staring at his phone, frowning. Everything okay? Marcus asked, setting down the plates. Sarah wants to visit tomorrow, and Tom and Javier want to bring dinner this weekend. That's good, you have people who care about you. Ethan set down his phone and looked at Marcus. They want to make sure you're not going to hurt me again. Marcus sat down in the armchair across from the couch. I don't blame them. Are you going to hurt me again? No, but I understand if you don't believe me. They ate in silence for a few minutes, then Ethan said, This is good, the pasta. Thanks. You really did learn to cook. Had to, takeaway every night gets expensive. Did you like it, London? Marcus considered lying, then no, not really. But the job. The job was great, the city was beautiful, and I was miserable. Ethan set down his fork. Why? Because you weren't there. Marcus. I'm not saying that to manipulate you or make you feel guilty. I'm just being honest. Every good thing that happened, I wanted to tell you about it. Every bad day, I wanted to come home to you. I'd see something funny or interesting and think, Ethan would love this, and then remember that you were 5,000 miles away and I'd thrown us away. Ethan was quiet, then, I was angry at you for a long time. Daniel wanted me to call you, tell you what an asshole you were. My friends wanted to fly to London and key your car. I don't have a car. They didn't know that? Ethan smiled faintly. But mostly I was just sad and confused. I kept thinking I'd done something wrong, but I couldn't figure out what. You didn't. I know, you said that, but Marcus, if I didn't do anything wrong, if you loved me like you said you did, then why wasn't it enough? Why wasn't I enough? The question landed like a punch. Marcus set down his plate and leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You were enough. You were more than enough. That was the problem, not with you, with me. I looked at our life together and it was perfect, and I convinced myself that if it was that perfect that early, then I must be missing something. There must be something else out there, some other version of myself I hadn't discovered yet. And was there? No, there was just me, alone in a city I didn't love, missing you constantly and realizing that the person I was searching for was who I already was when I was with you. Ethan rubbed his face with his hands. I don't know what to do with this, Marcus. I don't know how to trust you again. I don't expect you to, not right away. Then what do you expect? Nothing. I'm here because you need help and because I want to be here. What happens after that, that's up to you. Ethan looked at him for a long moment. Okay. Okay. Okay, you can stay, help me while I recover, and we'll see. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't a promise, but it was something, and Marcus would take it. Part 8, the slow thaw. The first week was awkward. Marcus slept in the guest room and woke early to make breakfast. He helped Ethan to the bathroom, averting his eyes to give him privacy. He learned the routine pain medication at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., ice for the swelling, elevation of the leg. He read aloud from Ethan's stack of books when Ethan got bored, doing terrible voices for the characters that made Ethan laugh despite himself. They existed in a strange limbo, not quite together but not quite separate. Marcus was careful not to overstep, to give Ethan space while still being helpful. But it was torture being this close to Ethan and not being able to touch him the way he used to pull him close and bury his face in Ethan's neck and feel like he was home. Sarah visited on Tuesday, bringing magazines and gossip from school. She was polite to Marcus but cool, and she stayed after Marcus excused himself to give them privacy. He's trying, Marcus heard Ethan say. He left you, Sarah responded, not bothering to lower her voice. He walked away and didn't look back. I know. So why is he here now? Guilt. I don't know, maybe, but he's been good, helpful. Ethan, you have the biggest heart of anyone I know. Don't let him take advantage of that. After Sarah left, Ethan was quiet for the rest of the evening. Marcus didn't push. He made dinner, cleaned up, and retreated to the guest room early to give Ethan space. But around midnight, he heard a thump from Ethan's room, followed by a muffled curse. Marcus was out of bed immediately. Ethan, you okay? Fine, came the strained response. Just dropped my water glass. Marcus opened the door without thinking. Ethan was on the floor beside his bed, trying to maneuver his crutches while reaching for the fallen glass. His cast made everything awkward, and he was clearly in pain. Let me help, Marcus said, crossing the room. I can do it. I know you can, but you don't have to. Marcus helped him back into bed, retrieved the glass, and refilled it from the bathroom. When he came back, Ethan was settled against his pillows, looking frustrated and tired. Thanks, he muttered. No problem, Marcus hesitated. Do you need anything else? No, I'm fine. But he didn't look fine. He looked exhausted and in pain, and despite the medication, unable to sleep. Marcus remembered this about Ethan, how he'd get insomnia when he was stressed, lying awake for hours despite being exhausted. Want me to read to you? Marcus offered. Ethan's eyebrows rose. It's midnight. So, you hate reading aloud. I hate a lot of things I do anyway. After a moment, Ethan nodded. Okay. Marcus grabbed the book from Ethan's nightstand, some literary fiction about a family in Ireland, and settled into the chair beside the bed. He read aloud, his voice soft and steady, and watched Ethan's face gradually relax. By the third chapter, Ethan's breathing had evened out and he was asleep. Marcus stayed for a few more minutes just watching. Then he carefully got up, turned off the light, and went back to the guest room. He didn't sleep much that night, but it was worth it. Part 9, Small Moments. The days began to blur together in a way that felt almost comfortable. Marcus developed a routine. Wake up at 7, make coffee the way Ethan liked it, too much cream, 1 sugar, make breakfast, usually something simple like eggs and toast. Help Ethan to the shower, then busy himself in the kitchen while Ethan got dressed. They'd have breakfast together, Marcus would clean up, and then they'd settle into their respective corners of the living room, Ethan on the couch with lesson plans or books, Marcus at the dining table with his laptop, trying to keep up with emails from London. "You should probably go back," Ethan said one morning, 2 weeks into Marcus's stay. Marcus looked up from his laptop. "What?" "To London, your job. You can't just put your whole life on hold indefinitely." "I'm not putting my life on hold, I'm helping you. Daniel can help, or Sarah, you don't have to." "I want to," Marcus said firmly, "unless you want me to leave." Ethan was quiet for a moment. "No, I don't want you to leave." "Then I'm staying." Something shifted in Ethan's expression, relief, maybe, or something softer. He went back to grading papers and Marcus went back to his emails, and neither of them mentioned it again. The small moments accumulated. Marcus learned that Ethan now took his coffee black on Tuesdays for some reason. Ethan learned that Marcus had developed a taste for spicy food in London. They watched terrible reality TV together and argued about whether the contestants were genuinely terrible people or just edited that way. They played cards, and Marcus learned that Ethan had somehow become ruthless at rummy during their time apart. "When did you get so competitive?" Marcus asked after losing for the 3rd time in a row. "I've always been competitive." "No, you haven't. You used to let me win at Scrabble." Ethan grinned. "I didn't let you win, you were better at Scrabble." "Was I though?" "Okay, no, but you got so sad when you lost that it was easier to just throw the game." "I prefer strategically redistribute the victory." Marcus laughed and it felt good, easy like old times. But then there were moments that reminded him they weren't old times. When Ethan's phone buzzed with a text and he smiled at it in a way that made Marcus's stomach clench with jealousy. When Marcus accidentally called the guest room "my room" and saw something flicker across Ethan's face. When they'd reach for the same thing and their hands would touch and they'd both pull back like they'd been burned. 3 weeks in, Tom and Javier came over for dinner. Marcus had met them a few times during his relationship with Ethan. They were a couple who'd been together for 8 years and they'd taken Ethan under their wing after the breakup. Marcus expected them to hate him. He wouldn't blame them if they did. "Marcus," Tom said coolly when he arrived, handing over a bottle of wine without making eye contact. "Tom, thanks for coming." Javier was slightly warmer but still guarded. They settled in the living room and Marcus retreated to the kitchen to get dinner ready, grateful for the distance. "Do you need help?" Ethan called. "I'm good." But 20 minutes later, Javier appeared in the kitchen doorway. "He sent me to check on you." "I'm fine, just trying not to burn the chicken." Javier leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "So, London." "Yeah. Was it worth it?" Marcus looked at him. "No, it really wasn't." "Did you think it would be?" "Honestly, I don't know what I thought. I just knew I felt like I was drowning and I needed to do something drastic." "And instead of talking to Ethan about it, you left." "Yeah. That was shitty." "I know." Javier was quiet for a moment. "He cried, after you left, not in front of us at first, but Tom ran into him at the grocery store about a month after and Ethan just broke down in the produce section. Tom said he'd never seen someone look so lost." Marcus's hands stilled on the knife he was using to chop vegetables. "I'm sorry." "Don't apologize to me, I'm not the one you hurt." "I know, but I am sorry for hurting him, for not being there for all of it." "Are you going to do it again?" "No." "How do I know that?" "You don't," Marcus admitted. "I can't prove it, I can just show up and hope that's enough." Javier studied him for a long moment, then, "The chicken's burning." Marcus spun around. It wasn't quite, but it was close. He rescued it from the pan while Javier laughed and somehow the tension broke. Dinner was awkward but not awful. Tom remained skeptical, but Javier and Ethan kept the conversation flowing, talking about everything from politics to a new restaurant that had opened in Capitol Hill. Marcus mostly listened, content to watch Ethan laugh and gesture animatedly while telling a story about one of his students. After Tom and Javier left, Ethan was quiet while Marcus cleaned up the dishes. "They don't trust me," Marcus said. "Can you blame them?" "No. They're protective. They were there after you left and they saw what it did to me." Marcus set down the plate he was washing. "What did it do to you?" Ethan was quiet for so long that Marcus thought he wasn't going to answer. Then, "It broke me for a while. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I'd come home from work and just sit on the couch and stare at nothing." Daniel practically moved in for the first month because he was worried I'd do something stupid. "Ethan, I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty. I'm telling you so you understand why my friends are skeptical. They put me back together, and they don't want to see me broken again." Marcus turned around, drying his hands on a towel. "I won't break you again, I swear." "You can't promise that." "Then I promise to try, to be honest, to communicate, to not run when things get hard." Ethan looked at him, really looked at him, and Marcus felt like he was being examined down to his bones. "Okay. Okay. I believe that you mean it right now. I just don't know if that's enough." It was honest at least. Marcus could work with honest. Part 10, the almost. It happened on a random Thursday. Marcus was reading aloud from a novel Ethan had picked out, something about two women falling in love in 1950s New York. Ethan was on the couch, his cast propped up, eyes closed as he listened. The afternoon light slanted through the windows, making everything soft and golden. Marcus stumbled over a word, corrected himself, and kept reading. But when he glanced up, Ethan was looking at him with an expression Marcus couldn't quite read. "What?" Marcus asked. "Nothing, keep reading." "Ethan, you have a tell when you're lying." Your left eyebrow twitches. Marcus closed the book. "What were you thinking about?" Ethan was quiet for a moment, then, "That I miss this, us, the easy parts." Marcus's heart rate picked up. "I miss it too. It's not fair, you hurt me so badly and I should still be angry, and I am angry, but I also—" Ethan stopped, shook his head. "Never mind." "No, say it please." "I also miss you, not the idea of you, not what we were. I miss you, Marcus. The way you read aloud even though you hate it because you know it helps me sleep. The way you learned to cook properly because you wanted to take care of me. The way you look at me sometimes like I'm something precious." Marcus set the book aside and moved to sit on the coffee table facing Ethan. "You are something precious." "Marcus, I mean it. You're the best person I know. You're kind and smart and passionate about things that matter. You see the best in people even when they don't deserve it, especially when they don't deserve it." "Stop." "Why?" "Because I can't think clearly when you talk like that." "Then don't think clearly, just tell me what you're feeling." Ethan's hands clenched in his lap. "I'm feeling like I want to kiss you, and I'm feeling terrified that if I do, I'll forget all the reasons I need to be careful. I'm feeling angry that you left and relieved that you came back and so tired of being confused." Marcus's breath caught. "Can I tell you what I'm feeling?" "Do I want to know?" "I'm feeling like the luckiest person alive that you're even talking to me. I'm feeling grateful for every second I get to spend with you, even if it's just reading to you or making you dinner. And I'm feeling like if you want to kiss me, then I really, really want you to kiss me." They stared at each other. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat, could see the conflict on Ethan's face. Ethan leaned forward slightly and Marcus held his breath. Then Ethan's phone rang. They both jumped. Ethan fumbled for his phone, his face flushed. "It's the doctor's office, I have to." "Take it," Marcus said, standing up and retreating to the kitchen on shaky legs. He heard Ethan's voice in the other room talking about his follow-up appointment and physical therapy schedules. Marcus gripped the edge of the counter and tried to calm his racing heart. They'd almost kissed. Ethan had almost kissed him. When Ethan hung up, Marcus came back to the living room. The moment had passed. Ethan was looking at his phone, deliberately not meeting Marcus's eyes. "Everything okay?" Marcus asked. "Yeah, just confirming my appointment for next week." "Good, that's good." Silence. "Marcus. We don't have to talk about it," Marcus said quickly. "It's okay. But I'm going to make dinner. You want pasta or stir-fry?" Ethan looked like he wanted to argue. "Then pasta, please." Marcus escaped to the kitchen and tried not to think about what had almost happened, tried not to hope. Part 11, Physical Therapy. Ethan's first physical therapy appointment was on a Monday. Marcus drove him to the clinic in Ethan's car, navigating the familiar Seattle streets with a strange sense of déjà vu. How many times had he driven this route when they were together? How many small, mundane moments had he taken for granted? The physical therapist was a woman named Angela who immediately put Ethan at ease with her no-nonsense attitude and terrible jokes. Marcus sat in the waiting room, scrolling through his phone but not really seeing anything. His inbox was full of messages from London, his project manager asking when he'd be back, HR wanting to know his leave status, Priya and Lee checking in asking how things were going. Marcus didn't know how to answer that last question. Things were good, things were complicated, things were in a strange limbo where he and Ethan existed in the same space but not quite the same world. "You okay?" Marcus looked up. Ethan was standing there on his crutches, Angela hovering nearby. "Yeah, how'd it go?" "Good, hard but good. She says I'm making progress." "That's great." In the car, Ethan was quiet. Marcus focused on driving, giving him space to think. But when they were stopped at a red light, Ethan said, "I've been thinking about Thursday." Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Okay. We almost kissed." "Yeah. I wanted to, in case that wasn't clear." "It was pretty clear. But I don't know if it's a good idea, us again." The light turned green. Marcus drove. "Can I ask why?" "Because what if you leave again? What if we try this and it works for a while and then you get scared and run? I don't think I could survive that twice." "I won't leave. You said you wouldn't leave before, and then you did." It was a fair point. Marcus couldn't argue with it. "You're right, I did, and I can stand here and promise I won't do it again, but words are cheap. So instead I'll just keep showing up. I'll stay as long as you'll let me, and if you decide you can't trust me again, if you decide this is too much, I'll accept that. But I'm not leaving unless you tell me to." Ethan was quiet for the rest of the drive. That night, Marcus was in the kitchen making tea when Ethan appeared in the doorway on his crutches. "I've been thinking," Ethan said. "That's never good," Marcus teased gently. "I'm serious." "Sorry, what have you been thinking about?" "I want to try something, an experiment." "Okay." "I want to try dating again, but slowly, like really slowly, no jumping back into things, no assuming we're back together, just seeing if this could work." Marcus's heart leaped into his throat. "Are you serious?" "I think so. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Tom would say I'm crazy." "Tom doesn't have to date me, you do." "So you want to?" "Ethan, I would date you slowly, quickly, or at any speed you wanted. Yes, 1,000 times yes." Ethan smiled, small and tentative. "Okay, but rules." "Rules?" "You still sleep in the guest room, we don't tell people yet, and if at any point I say I need space, you give it to me, no questions asked." "Done, agreed, whatever you need." "And you have to go back to London eventually. Talk to your firm, figure out what you're doing with your job." "I know I will." "When?" Marcus hadn't wanted to think about it. "My leave is up in 2 weeks. So we have 2 weeks to figure out if this is completely insane or just regular insane." "I'll take those odds." They stared at each other across the kitchen. Then Ethan said, "So, do we shake hands or?" Marcus laughed. "I think a kiss would be more traditional." "Is it too fast for a kiss? We almost kissed 3 days ago." "Good point." Ethan maneuvered his crutches so he could lean against the counter, and Marcus crossed the kitchen to stand in front of him. He reached up slowly, giving Ethan time to pull away, and cupped his face. "Hi," Marcus said softly. "Hi," Ethan breathed. Marcus leaned in and kissed him. It was gentle, tentative, nothing like the passionate kisses they used to share. But it was real, and when Ethan sighed against his lips, Marcus felt like he could finally breathe again. When they pulled apart, Ethan's eyes were bright. "Okay. Okay. That was okay, good, better than good. Can I do it again?" "In a minute, I need to," Ethan laughed. "I need to catch my breath." Marcus smiled and rested his forehead against Ethan's. "Take all the time you need." Part 12, Learning Again. Dating Ethan the second time was different. The first time, they'd fallen into it easily, naturally, like water finding its level. They'd moved from dating to exclusive to moving in together in the space of 5 months, and it had felt right. This time, everything was slower, more careful, like they were learning a dance they used to know but had forgotten the steps to. Marcus took Ethan on their first official second chance date 3 days after their kitchen kiss. He couldn't take him far. Ethan was still on crutches, so he brought the date to them. He ordered takeout from Ethan's favorite Thai place, set up the dining table with candles and the nice dishes, and made a playlist of songs they both liked. "This is very romantic," Ethan said, settling into his chair. "Are you trying to seduce me? Is it working?" "Maybe." They ate and talked, and it felt like old times but also completely new. Marcus asked about Ethan's students, and Ethan asked about Marcus's projects. They talked about books and movies and the terrible reality show they'd gotten addicted to. They didn't talk about the past or the future, just the present, and it was enough. After dinner, they settled on the couch to watch a movie. Marcus sat at one end, Ethan at the other, his cast propped up between them. Halfway through, Ethan shifted closer and Marcus took the hint, wrapping an arm around him. Ethan's head rested on Marcus's shoulder, and Marcus thought about all the times they'd sat like this before. How he'd taken it for granted. How he'd never fully appreciated the weight of Ethan against him, the warmth of him, the simple fact of his presence. "You're thinking too loud," Ethan murmured. "Sorry. What are you thinking about?" "How lucky I am that you're giving me another chance." "You're on probation, don't mess it up." "I won't." "Good." They finished the movie, and when it was over, Ethan didn't move. Marcus didn't either. They sat there in the dark, breathing together, and Marcus felt more at peace than he had in months. "I should probably go to bed," Ethan said eventually. "Probably." Neither of them moved. "Marcus." "Yes." "Thank you for coming back, for staying. Thank you for letting me." Ethan turned his head to look up at him, and Marcus leaned down and kissed him. It was longer than their first kiss, deeper, and when they pulled apart, they were both breathing hard. "Good night," Ethan said. "Good night." Marcus helped him to his room, then went to the guest room and lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. 2 weeks until he had to go back to London. 2 weeks to prove to Ethan that this could work. 2 weeks to figure out what the hell he was going to do with his life. He picked up his phone and opened his email. The message from his project manager was still there, marked unread. Marcus had been avoiding it, avoiding all of them, but he couldn't anymore. He typed out a reply. "Hey James asterisk. I need to talk to you about my position. Can we schedule a call?" "Marcus." He hit send before he could overthink it. Part 13, The Call. The call with James happened 2 days later. Marcus took it in the guest room, door closed, while Ethan worked on lesson plans in the living room. He'd been dreading this conversation, but it was time. "Marcus, good to hear from you," James said cheerfully. How's the family emergency? Marcus grimaced. Actually, James, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Oh, it's not exactly a family emergency. Well, it is, but, Marcus took a breath. I need to be honest with you, the person who was hurt, he's my ex, and I came back to help him recover. There was a pause. I see. And being back here, being with him again, I've realized that I made a mistake. Leaving Seattle, leaving him. London is great and the job is amazing, but my life is here. Another pause. Are you saying you want to quit? I don't want to, but I think I need to. James sighed. Marcus, you're one of our best designers. Your work on the Kensington project was exceptional. Are you sure about this? I'm sure. I'm sorry to put you in this position, but I can't keep pretending that my heart is in London when it's not. Does Seattle not have architecture? Marcus laughed despite himself. It does. Then maybe we can figure something out. Let me talk to the partners, see if we can work out a remote arrangement or a transfer to our Seattle office. You have a Seattle office. It's small, but yes, let me make some calls. Don't do anything drastic yet. After they hung up, Marcus sat for a long moment, processing. A transfer. He hadn't even thought of that as a possibility. If it worked out, he could stay in Seattle, keep the job he'd wanted so badly, and be with Ethan. If Ethan wanted him to stay. Marcus came out of the guest room to find Ethan on the couch, looking at him with raised eyebrows. How'd it go? Better than expected. He's going to see if I can transfer to the Seattle office. You have a Seattle office? Apparently. Ethan set down his papers. And if you can't transfer? Then I'll quit and find something here. Marcus, that's your dream job. You're my dream, Ethan. The job is just a job. Ethan's expression softened. That's very romantic, but also very stupid. You shouldn't give up your career for me. I'm not giving it up for you. I'm making a choice about where I want to be, and I want to be here. What if we don't work out? The question hung in the air between them. It was the fear Marcus knew they both had, that they'd try this again and it would fall apart and Marcus would have given up London for nothing. Then at least I'll have tried, Marcus said, and I'll find another job here. Seattle has plenty of architecture firms. Not like yours. Maybe not, but I don't care. I spent 8 months in London proving to myself that I could have everything I thought I wanted and it meant nothing without you. So whether we work out or not, I'm staying in Seattle, because this is home, your home. Ethan stood up, balancing on his good leg and his crutches. He crossed to Marcus and kissed him hard. You can't just say things like that, Ethan said when they broke apart. Why not? Because it makes it very hard to stay mad at you. Good, I don't want you to be mad at me. I'm still scared. Me too. But I want this to work. Me too. They stood there, foreheads pressed together, and Marcus felt something settle in his chest. It wasn't certainty, they were still too fragile for that, but it was hope, real and solid, and that was enough. Part 14, Tom and Javier's intervention. The intervention came on a Saturday. Marcus was making lunch when Tom and Javier showed up unannounced. Ethan let them in and Marcus heard their voices from the kitchen, casual at first, then dropping to serious tones. Marcus stayed in the kitchen, giving them privacy, but after 15 minutes, Javier appeared in the doorway. We need to talk, he said. All of us. All of us. In the living room, Tom was sitting next to Ethan on the couch, looking serious. Marcus took the armchair, suddenly feeling like he was on trial. So, Tom said, Ethan tells us you two are dating again. We are. And you're planning to move back to Seattle. I am. Tom and Javier exchanged a look, then Tom turned to Ethan. And you're okay with this? I'm the one who suggested we try dating again, Ethan said. After he hurt you, after he left you, after you spent 3 months barely functional. Ethan started. No, let him talk, Marcus interrupted. He's right, I did all those things and I understand why that makes you worried. Tom turned his attention to Marcus. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, this looks like you got scared, ran away, realized the grass wasn't greener and came running back. And Ethan, because he has the biggest heart of anyone we know, is letting you. That's not, Ethan protested. Isn't it though? Tom pressed. Marcus, why should we believe you won't do this again? What's different this time? Marcus took a breath. The difference is that I know what it's like to lose him now. I spent 8 months learning exactly how much losing Ethan cost me, and I'll spend the rest of my life making sure I never forget that. Pretty words, Tom said. I know, and I know I can't prove it to you, but I can show up every day and try to be the person Ethan deserves. Javier spoke up for the first time. What happens when you get scared again? Because life is scary, Marcus. Commitment is scary. What happens when you panic? Then I talk to Ethan about it. I go to therapy. I do whatever it takes to work through it instead of running. You should go to therapy anyway, Javier said. I know, I'm looking for a therapist here. That seemed to surprise them both. Tom and Javier looked at each other, having some silent conversation Marcus wasn't privy to. Finally, Tom turned to Ethan. Are you happy? I'm getting there, Ethan said. I'm cautiously optimistic. And if he hurts you again? Then I'll deal with it, but Tom, you can't protect me from everything. I'm a grown adult. I get to make my own choices even if they might be mistakes. They're not mistakes if you learn from them, Marcus said quietly. Tom sighed. Fine, but Marcus, I'm serious. If you hurt him again, I will make your life hell. Understood. I know where you work. I have connections. I will ruin you. I believe you. Good, Tom stood up. Now that that's settled, who wants brunch? There's a new place in Fremont that Javier's been dying to try. The tension broke. Ethan laughed and Javier rolled his eyes and Marcus felt like maybe, just maybe, he'd passed some kind of test. They ended up at the brunch place, which had terrible service but excellent pancakes. Tom and Javier told stories about their latest home renovation disaster, and Ethan complained about standardized testing, and Marcus mostly listened and felt grateful to be included. On the way home, Ethan was quiet. You okay? Marcus asked. Yeah, just thinking. About how Tom and Javier are like the brothers I never had, and how much it means that they're trying to protect me. They love you. I know, and I love them, but Marcus. Yes. I'm glad you stood up to Tom. He respects that. Really, because he threatened to ruin my life. That's how he shows affection. Marcus laughed and Ethan smiled, and Marcus thought that maybe this could actually work. Part 15, the follow-up. Ethan's 6-week follow-up appointment came on a Wednesday. The doctor was pleased with his progress. The bone was healing well, the cast could come off in another week, and physical therapy was working. Ethan would need a walking boot for a few weeks after that, but he was on track for a full recovery. You've been taking good care of him, Dr. Patel said to Marcus as they were leaving. He makes it easy, Marcus replied. In the car, Ethan was practically glowing. A week, one more week and this damn cast comes off. Then you can finally take a real shower. Oh my God, yes, I miss showers so much. You could always let me help you with. Nice try. Marcus grinned, worth a shot. They stopped for lunch at a cafe near the hospital, settling into a booth by the window. It was a beautiful day, rare for Seattle in October, and the city seemed to sparkle. I have news, Marcus said as they waited for their food. Good news or bad news? Good news, James called this morning. The transfer came through. I'm officially moving to the Seattle office. Ethan's face lit up. Marcus, that's amazing. I start in 3 weeks, which gives me time to fly back to London, pack up my stuff, and say goodbye to Lee and Priya. They're good friends. The best. They kept me sane when I was being an idiot. I like them already. Their food arrived and they ate and talked about logistics. Where Marcus would live, they agreed it was too soon for him to move back into Ethan's apartment. What the Seattle office was like when he'd need to go to London. "I'll only be gone for a week," Marcus said. "Pack up, ship my stuff, catch up with work, then I'm back." "And then what?" "Then I find an apartment, set up my new office, take you on proper dates now that you can actually walk." "Sounds nice." "It will be." Ethan was quiet for a moment, pushing his food around on his plate. Then, "Marcus, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why did you really leave? I know you said you were scared and felt like you couldn't breathe, but there has to be more to it than that." Marcus set down his fork. This was the conversation he'd been dreading, but Ethan deserved honesty. "My parents got married when they were 22, Marcus started. "They had me when they were 23, and they spent the next 25 years being miserable. They stayed together for me even though they clearly didn't love each other anymore. Maybe they never did, I don't know." "I didn't know that. I don't talk about it much, but when you started talking about buying a house and forever, all I could think was that my parents probably felt the same way when they were young. They probably thought they had it all figured out, and then life happened and they were trapped." "So you thought we'd end up like them?" "I thought I'd end up like them, stuck in a life I'd chosen too young, resenting you for it even though it wasn't your fault." Ethan reached across the table and took Marcus's hand. "We're not your parents. I know that now, but I didn't then, and instead of talking to you about it, I just ran. If you'd told me, we could have figured it out." "I know, that's why I'm telling you now, so you understand that it was never about you not being enough. It was always about me being too scared to believe I could have something good and keep it. And now I'm still scared, but I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you." Ethan squeezed his hand. "That's very poetic for an architect." "I've been reading a lot. This teacher I know keeps leaving poetry books lying around." "He sounds pretentious." "A little bit, but I love him anyway." Ethan's breath caught. "Marcus. Too soon." "No, not too soon, I love you too, still, again, whatever." Marcus felt like he could fly. "Yeah. Yeah." They finished lunch in a haze of happiness, and Marcus paid the bill and helped Ethan back to the car. On the drive home, Ethan reached over and laced their fingers together, and Marcus thought about how he'd taken this for granted before, the simple act of holding hands, of being together, of being home. Never again. Part 16, London Redux. Marcus flew to London on a Monday. Saying goodbye to Ethan at the airport was harder than he'd expected. They'd only been back together, officially, for 3 weeks, and it felt too soon to be separated. But it was only a week and Marcus had things he needed to do. "Call me when you land," Ethan said, leaning on his crutches. "I will. And send pictures of Lee and Priya. I want to see the people who took care of you." "I will." They kissed, not caring about the people rushing past them in the terminal. When they pulled apart, Ethan was smiling. "Go before I change my mind and make you stay. I'll be back before you know it." "You better be." The flight was long and uncomfortable, and Marcus spent most of it thinking about everything that had happened in the past 2 months. He'd left London believing he was moving toward something better. Instead, he'd learned that better was what he already had. Priya and Lee picked him up from Heathrow, both of them grinning like idiots. "He came back," Lee announced to no one in particular. "I told you he would," Priya said. "You did not, you said, and I quote, 'He's definitely going to stay in Seattle and ghost us.'" "I said I hoped he wouldn't ghost us, there's a difference." Marcus hugged them both. "I missed you guys." "We missed you too," Priya said. "Now come on, we're taking you to dinner and you're going to tell us everything." Over Indian food in Shoreditch, Marcus told them the whole story. The hospital, the recovery, the slow rebuild of trust, the decision to move back to Seattle. "So you're really doing it," Lee said, "leaving London." "I am." "We're happy for you," Priya said.